So I wasn't gonna make a video again on the Crunchyroll Anime Awards and making my own anime awards kind of like last year because, I already did it last year. I was kind of bored with doing the idea again. But I found the fallout to the anime awards and especially Solo Leveling winning Anime of the Year really interesting because it shows to me that the anime community kind of has a hype problem, right? I feel like people finally got a little taste of their own medicine and saw what it's like to be me very often, which is like an anime comes out and it's like okay, people enjoy watching it, they have a fun time, but then it just gets overrated into complete oblivion, right? People saying Solo Leveling Anime of the Year, there's no way, right? It was a fun time, it was super hype, the fights were cool, but it's not actually that good, right? It's just like a little piece of entertainment. And that's how I feel about a lot of anime. And yes, that's how I do feel about all the anime in the thumbnail. I think they're all, they're fine anime. I had like a fun time watching them. Yeah, I just checked all my scores again. I rated like Frieren an 8 out of 10. Chi, or Orb, however you want to call it, got a 7. What was the other one? Kusuriya no Hitorigoto, Apothecary Diaries, I also gave that like a 7. Right? They're all fine anime, which is why I use the word mid in the thumbnail, because that's truly how I feel. And then I see, I don't really consume much of the anime community, right? I go on r/anime sometimes, and when anime comes out that's like super popular, I watch like a Gigak video or like a stream highlight on it. And Gigak is out here calling like Frieren and Chi like possible anime of the decade.
Orb anime of the year? God. Where do I even start? Anime of the year? Anime of the year? Nah, bro. Nah, are you serious? You think Orb is anime of the year? Bro, you really think Orb is anime of the year material? Nah, man, nah. An anime of the decade. Is that the precedence we're setting? Anime of the year? Nah. I'm putting it up there.
Right, which is crazy to me. And so that's how I get the Solo Leveling feeling again, right? They're like, they're fine anime, they're super cool, but they're super overrated. They're not actually that good. They're genuinely mid, or like just like a little bit above average if you want to be exact with it, and you hate people using the word mid. So let me talk a little bit about how I feel about possible other anime of the year contenders that people were listing, right? Because people were saying Solo Leveling shouldn't have won, Frieren should have won, or Chi should have won, or Kusuriya no Hitorigoto should have won. And, for Frieren, for example.
まるでおとぎの話終わり迎えた証長すぎる旅路から切り出した一節
Personally, I think, in my opinion, people were arguing all the time. It's like, oh man, all those dumbasses saying Frieren is boring. They just can't take a slow show. They're just all like a bunch of TikTok kids. They can't handle it when a show is it's a little bit more pensive, a little bit more contemplative, just a little bit more about world building and stuff like that. And I agree with that to an extent. I genuinely do think the first couple of episodes of Frieren were really boring, right? Actually, usually with these anime that are super hyped, I want to watch them like in peak condition, right? I want to be able to binge them. So I waited until Frieren was out completely so I could binge it. And the Isekai Man, my number one consultant in anime matters, obviously, he already started Frieren before me. And I was really surprised because he said he dropped the show. I was really confused, and he said it was boring. I was like, there's no way, because, I don't always agree with everything he says. But when I gave Frieren a shot myself, I quickly realized what he meant, because I really did feel like those first, 4 episodes or so were like, I was pretty close to dropping the show myself. I thought it was boring, and I think the main reason for that were fans and Frieren's personalities, because they're both kind of like kudere, not very emotionally expressive type characters, right? It makes sense. I guess Fern is like a traumatized child of war, and Frieren has obviously lived for a gajillion years, so it makes sense for her to be more emotionally distant, especially since she's that's the whole point of the show, that she's so like, she sees people dying around her all the time, so she doesn't really get attached to people, and she learns how to do that with through him and through this new party that she has, right? That's the whole point of the show. I get it. But just watching these two characters emotionlessly go about their lives the first couple of episodes before Stark was introduced, my God, it was not fun to get through, okay? It doesn't have anything to do with me being on Instagram Reels or TikTok too much.
Cat park there, mate.
Hey, pal, any chance of a fucking push over, please, pal?
It's not like the show was actually amazing and people just, I mean, if you feel that way, you know, power to you, you enjoy what you enjoy. But I personally think I have a pretty legitimate reason of why I think the first couple of episodes were actually genuinely just kind of boring. I do think it got a lot better though, especially when Stark got introduced. You know, the story started picking up. There was actually like a character that had like a personality. I think another guy, I didn't actually watch the video, I think, but somebody made like a video of how he's like the better version of Zenitsu. Yeah, I only saw the thumbnail and the title. I thought it was kind of an interesting point though. But yeah, obviously later the fights were crazy, the animation was crazy, and you know me, I'm not like one to go crazy for a show just because I mean, maybe you probably don't know me. I'm not one to get like crazy for a show just because it has good animation. I'm like Jujutsu Kaisen hater number one over here, but I do think that was pretty cool seeing all the fights later and the story pick up when obviously they got to the mage exam later. And you know what, I just realized there's like a through line through all of these shows that I'm criticizing right now, whether it's Frieren or Chi or Kusuriya no Hitorigoto, which is that they're all kind of episodic, right? With Frieren you have like, yeah, it's just them going about life, meeting new people, you know, they meet like Sein and Kraft.
Es geht besser! Kraft! Power! Strength! Und tschüss.
And all these other characters, and then they go journey on with them for a couple episodes, maybe 2 or 3 episodes, and then they go about their way again. You know, they found like this tribe that was related to Stark's tribe, and he had to stand in as the son of the guy. Yeah, I guess they are all kind of episodic, which is why I don't like any of these. I don't love any of these shows that much. I just realized that when I didn't even write that down in my notes. I will say, however, out of all the shows that I've listed in the thumbnail, I think Frieren is probably the one I like the most. I think it does have an interesting concept with, you know, what I just explained with Frieren learning to attach herself more to people and appreciate the time she has with them. You know, there was stuff that I didn't necessarily pick up on while I was initially watching the show, which is like, once again, like I said last year in the Anime Awards video with Jujutsu Kaisen, I strongly encourage people to read anime opening lyrics, because in this case, again, with Yuasobi, the Yusha opening lyrics, I did not realize while I was watching the show that Himmel made all those, had people make all these statues of him so that Frieren would be reminded of him constantly after he was dead. I thought that was a really nice touch. You know, there's cool stuff like that in Frieren, right? So I did give it an 8 out of 10. That's a high ass score. If you see like my mean score on Mel, you know, it's like 6 point something, I think. So I do consider it like an above average show. It's good, but I would never call it like instant anime of the year, anime of the decade, or whatever the fuck people are saying. That's the main problem I have with the anime community right now. There's like a hype problem, and I feel like now with Solo Leveling, it really got exposed to like most of the community where they got a sense of what that is actually like. Sorry if it seems like I'm being a little wishy-washy in my criticism of Frieren. You know, as I already said, like, it's difficult to criticize a good show because there's so much good to say about it. But you know, there's like a difference between good stuff and like stuff that is truly great. And I feel like in the anime community, it's like oftentimes it feels like, you know, if you heard your local homie who, like, I don't know, plays piano or plays guitar play, and you're like, yeah, that sounds nice when he plays this instrument, there's a huge difference between like him and the best piano or the best guitar players in the world, right? Same as when you see like a piece of art, like the local chick in your school is like really good at drawing, and you think, yeah, her drawings look really nice, they're really pleasant to look at. She's great at drawing, but there's a difference obviously between her and like the greatest artists of all time, right? And I feel like with anime, that difference gets muddied very often by the community, and they just deem anything that's like you know, remotely good is like one of the best things of all time, or like best things of the decade, best of the year, or whatever. Again, that's the whole point of the video, right? That's what they did with Solo Leveling. And, you know, I'm trying to bridge the gap here between the community and myself, where oftentimes, again, what they feel right now about Solo Leveling is how I feel about a lot of other stuff, the anime that I'm talking about right here. For example, with Frieren, I think one of the reasons I say in this video oftentimes I don't like episodic shows, and one of the reasons for that is that if you have episodic shows and a couple of episodes in there are boring, and obviously if it's episodic, it doesn't really contribute much to the overarching plot, right? Like if you have a boring episode in an already episodic show, that's just a waste of time, right? You're not getting anything that progresses the story, and you're also not being entertained. So at that point, you're kind of just wasting your time. And I feel like in Frieren, there are a lot of, let's just call them forgettable episodes. There's it's like a criticism that has been mentioned very often against Frieren, right? That it's boring, and just as often it gets dismissed, right? I say in the video already. People just say, "Oh, yeah, you're just one of those TikTok kids," blah blah blah. They say the people who call Frieren boring, they have small attention spans, and I think personally it's a legitimate criticism. I don't consider myself as someone who has like a small attention span. Actually, I consider myself someone who pays a lot more attention to detail in anime than the vast majority of anime watchers. And again, I've also had friends, Isekai Man, he also thought it was very boring. So I personally think it's a legit criticism. And then the point about episodic shows and boring individual episodes applies in this case, right? In my opinion. Yeah, and there's also one of the things that I want to mention, like, I keep saying this even right now, right? And at other points in the video, I'm like, yeah, in my opinion, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure a lot of people would think to themselves, yeah, at the end of the day, it's all subjective. Just because you didn't like the show doesn't mean it's not great. And it's not one of the best things that came out recently. And, well, of course that's true, right? But it's also true that, if we go back to, like, art and paintings, like, the picture that the local girl at your school or college or university or whatever draws is probably it's all subjective, art is subjective and whatever, but it's probably also still objectively worse than something that Van Gogh or any other like Da Vinci famous artist drew, right? So while it is all subjective and you can enjoy what you enjoy, right? You can watch Frieren 1,000 times back to back as much as you want and call it your favorite thing ever. I have no complaints with that, but I think it's also legit to like levy criticisms and I don't know how to say it. Like try to course correct public perception of the show, of any show, a little bit, and I think that would also be a better look for the anime community if we're not just seen as a bunch of fucking idiots that call anything with good animation the best thing ever. Now, moving on from the anime that I do like the most out of all the ones in the thumbnail, let's go to the anime that I should like the most out of all these ones, which is Chi, right?
何度でもスケブこのくらいよ An
anime about scientists and astronomy, which I ever since I was little I loved astronomy. I'm a physics university student right now, and this one I will also like right now I will say there were people like interpreting great things into the ending of what that could possibly mean and stuff. So maybe I just missed some stuff, I misinterpreted some stuff, I didn't understand it, right? That's totally possible. But I personally didn't really think like Gigak genuinely caught the show anime of the decade possibly, and I saw how I also saw like a clip on Trash Taste how they were Connor and Gand were both glazing the fucking show, and Joey, that moron, of course did not watch it again. We'll get to Joey one day. We're this close to getting to this guy. Oh, look here, there's some math right here, proving how I am very scientifically minded, obviously. So with Chi, I thought there were some cool things, right? I did genuinely think Novak was a cool character. I also like Rafał a lot. Really cool, but Rafał also got done dirty at the end of the show. And, I thought there were some other interesting characters like Badeni and Jolenta. But again, yeah, I think they did Novak really dirty in the ending, with which, that whole situation in the church where they were kind of gaslighting him. It was like, oh no, the church never said anything. You can't, anything about how you can't research heliocentrism, right? After literally like 2 minutes earlier, before Novak entered the door, the priest there was like, yeah, I think this might be like illegal, but we'll roll with it anyway, right? We'll make a lot of money. Let's go. That's epic. And then Novak comes in and is like, no, we never said that was illegal. Dude, you just like, am I crazy? Am I like super misunderstanding something here? I'm probably putting up the scene with the subtitles on screen, right? I want people like, please explain this to me, how this doesn't make any fucking sense. And it's like Novak spent his half of his fucking life, his whole life, fighting against heliocentrism. His daughter, he thought his daughter died because of it, right? And he had to live with that. And at the end of the day, they were all just kind of gaslighting him into thinking like, oh, wait, that was all pointless, and it was all just because of me that all of this shit happened, and it's all my fault, and I just did it for no goddamn reason. God doesn't mind. I do think Novak is cool, right? He was a cool character. The one constant throughout the whole show was him, and then they just like did him dirty like that, and then he fucking dies full of regret. What the fuck?
All right, so like I watched the scene again, right, trying to understand this a bit more, and here she explains how, right, she wants to publish this book. It's about heliocentrism, and his first reaction is this, right? He's like, "What the fuck? There's no way we're doing that. That's blasphemy. Not happening." And then she suggests to him instantly, "It's like, have you ever heard this being persecuted anywhere else?" Right? And he goes like, "Of course it's blasphemy, you dumb bitch. What the fuck are you saying? Spare me the jokes." But I guess what I completely like forgot, like he even said like his father sentenced many people to death for heliocentrism. But then even he has to pause for a second, which I guess I forgot. Where he's like, wait a minute, maybe this girl does have a point, right? I've never heard of it being suppressed anywhere else. So I guess this is just kind of like, okay, what does this mean for Novak? I mean, his father sentenced many people to death because of heliocentrism. Does that mean it's Novak's fault, or was Novak working under his father, right, and just following orders? I mean, you know, at the end of the day, the interesting thing about Novak is that he's like not a great guy, right? He's like a weird psychopath murder dude, but at the same time, he thinks all of the evil acts that he's doing are justified through his belief, and that he is actually like working for God, and he is a good person. Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, the whole thing in Chi and Orb. Everyone wants to go to heaven, right? They all want to live their life with good deeds so that they can end up going to heaven. That was like the mindset, not only in this anime, but like at the time. So, you know, I guess that's the interesting thing about it, whether or not at the end you think like Novak is a complete fucking retard for doing all this shit. It was all pointless. Yeah, I guess it was just kind of a confusing scene. But does it take away from Novak or not? That, you know, he's not really a character with own agency. Was he ever a character with agency when he was guided by Christianity and his faith? You know, I guess just some things to think about. I guess the thing that I'm really grappling with the scene is the whiplash that not only Novak, but also I have received from like watching this anime for 22 episodes, and then all of a sudden just being told that like everything Novak did was kind of pointless, and he just decided on his own terms, or, you know, the father of the priest guy decided on his own terms that heliocentrism was a no-no, and everyone else in the show that we have met so far also believed that, because I guess they were all influenced by just that one guy, or those two guys, or however you want to see it, you want to look at it. And, you know, it's kind of weird that I guess that it's just kind of mega whiplash, and I guess the only way I could grapple with that is, you know, there's this YouTube channel which I think, which was predestined pretty much to make a video about this, called Astronomy Before the Telescope, right? I did not know about this before he made a video about it, right? But he made a video about Orb, saying called The Real History Behind Orb on the Movements of the Earth. He probably got this recommended as well. It's like his most popular video on his channel. Yeah, it literally is. It has 76,000 views. His next popular video has 1,343. So I strongly encourage you to watch that video. And, you know, he has a whole section on whether or not the church actually prosecuted heliocentrism at the time or not. And, you know, in the intro to that section, he says it's complicated. So, like, the anime is giving us this really, like, simplified answer, which is like, yeah, this is just the action of this one or two individuals. But, like, even the real-life events were a bit more complicated, and it wasn't just a simple, like, yeah, nobody's ever actually said anything against this. It's also not, like, you know, it's also not completely in the other direction, right? But, like, it's just kind of difficult to again grapple with when you watch 22 episodes of this anime, and then all of a sudden you swing like from one extreme to the other. I guess is what my problem with this whole scene is.
And then obviously Rafał, this whole ending, like that's what I meant, right? With people interpreting stuff in there into the scene, but like Rafał all of a sudden becoming this fucking psychopath who like kills that one dude's dad, and invited like the grown-up version of Rafał. I just didn't understand the whole thing. I don't know why we had to make this beloved character that we had before into like a weird sociopath murderer. Yeah, I did not appreciate the ending of Orb. The middle part, I was also, already not like in love with it, right? It's an interesting show. Does have interesting concepts. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I do think it's above average, right? But it's not like this is like the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life the whole time. I think if you want to watch a show about like the scientific spirit of always pressing forward and making new discoveries, that's just better, and also has like a million other life lessons in there that are also better, and has like triple or quadruple the amount of episodes, so you have more to enjoy. You probably already watched it. It's called Attack on Titan, the small little show. It's like it has the same message in there with the Survey Corps, right? The whole pursuit of Erwin and dying for your fallen comrades and continuing with the message and all that stuff. Like, it's all in there, and a lot more, and it's way better. There's better animation, better soundtrack, better everything. It's just better. Yeah, then moving on to Dungeon Meshi. I usually love cooking shows. I love Shokugeki no Soma. Soma is one of my favorite characters. I would say, last Anime Awards video, I recommended people to watch Isekai Horo Meshi. Next category, I call the soon-to-be-forgotten gem. I want to shout out Isekai Horo Meshi, okay? Which is like, I don't even mind cooking shows that have cooking that doesn't include actual real-life ingredients. It can also be bullshit isekai ingredients. But Dungeon Meshi just sucks, man. Like, I managed to watch the first 3 episodes, okay? I did not finish it. And I was bored every time I watched this anime. I tried to, like, watch it while eating. It never really worked for me. Yeah, the animation's kind of cool. Again, I don't really care that much about that. And yeah, it's like this big thing made by Studio Trigger and Netflix and all this stuff. I was just bored the entire time watching it. I don't find the characters endearing. I almost didn't pull for Masil and Arknights when they had the Dungeon Meshi collab there. I only really got her because I got her in the free 10-pull that they gave out. Yeah, Dungeon Meshi, it's just boring. It's just bad. It sucks. Please, like, let's not inflate this anymore. This one I actually think is below average. And I'm not gonna finish watching it. That's all I have to say about it. And then going on to Kusuriya no Hitorigoto.
花になってオラに昼に笑ってその顔にゾクゾクして目が離せない Quick little interjection from me from the future, because even during the recording that I made for this video, I kind of realized that I was running out of steam a little bit, which is why I said this.
Again, fuck, man, I'm doing very badly here.
So maybe I can talk now a little bit more easily about what I didn't like about Kusuriya no Hitorigoto, right? And yeah. Basically, what I feel about the show is that, as I already established, right, I'm not the biggest fan of episodic shows, right? Which I kind of realized during editing that it kind of seemed like I was just realizing that in the moment. But I knew already before that I didn't like episodic shows. It just didn't really click in my head that all of these were pretty episodic. But I feel like for Kusuriya no Hitorigoto, it's the most obvious one, right? That it's really episodic. Because, with Frieren, you still have like the overarching goal of them making it to that one place where they can meet Himmel and talk to the dead people, right? And with Orb, obviously, you have the whole mission of spreading heliocentrism through the world. But with Kusuriya no Hitorigoto, I don't even think there's like a big overarching goal, right? Because it's not like Mao Mao has to be there at the Royal Palace or anything. And, it's not like she has like a goal of, I don't know, Nami One Piece style, finding every poisonous plant on the planet or something. So yeah, I mean, for Kusuriya, it's like really episodic, and I still think it's a pretty good show, right? I would say, they did manage to make the individual arcs, the little story arcs, pretty interesting, but it was still not, in my opinion, like, it was still pretty episodic.
and I just don't like that kind of show. So, you know, and like even for other anime, like for example, Dandadan, a lot of people were saying that that one Dandadan episode was like episode 7 or episode 9, the one with the girl and her mother, that was like the best episode of the whole show. And you know, for me personally, as somebody who's seen like so many anime, it's just like, okay, let's use kind of generic anime sub story and put this into like this 10-15 minute flashback package. It didn't really get much out of me. And you know, I like Dandadan. I think Dandadan is like appropriately rated. If you're talking about all these anime that I think are kind of overrated, I think Dandadan is like kind of like, you know, it's a good show. Everyone likes it, but I don't think I've seen a lot of people say like, oh, this should definitely be anime of the year. This is anime of the decade. This is revolutionizing shonen or whatever. I think everyone's just kind of like, yeah, this is a fun shonen with great animation. And it's just a good time, a great watch. And for example, like with Dandadan, I think it also kind of illustrates my problem with episodic shows. Because like, for example, the sub story, right, I didn't make me feel much of anything. But right now, the most recent episode of Dandadan, where for a moment Momo thought that Okarun died, right? We all know Okarun obviously is not gonna fucking die. But I actually felt sad for Momo in that moment, just because I knew how she felt, because I've been with this character for like 1.5 seasons of anime. And that actually made me way more emotional than that episode with the girl in the sub story. So, you know, that's just me personally. I get how, you know, maybe for other people, they're fine with more episodic stuff. I already, back when I was like fucking 5 years old, I was like, Digimon is better than Pokemon because you actually have like an overarching story, and Pokemon is just episodic shit. I didn't say it like that, obviously, but that's how I felt, right? So, yeah, just wanted to interject that really quickly, because I've had time to gather my thoughts a bit more. So yeah, back to the video. I think the main problem with the show is that I'm really not part of the target audience, I think. And also I want to give the disclaimer that I have not watched season 2 yet. I'm definitely gonna watch it. Yes, I did put the frog in the thumbnail, even though I have no idea what the fuck that even means. I just know it's a big meme in the community. So I put it in there. And then finally, obviously, the biggest one of them all, the big fish, Solo Leveling. How do I feel about Solo Leveling? I haven't watched it. Guess what? If the normies are already sitting there making memes about how the anime is just all hype, but if you actually look at the story, right, it's pretty fucking stupid. Sun Jin-woo, I think that's his name, just comes in, saves the day. It's a really repetitive story. If the normies are catching up on that shit, the same people who are like celebrating Jujutsu Kaisen and stuff like that, which is just the same garbage, right? Imagine if I were to watch it. There's no point in me fucking watching Solo Leveling. Okay, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not going to put myself through it. And that leaves us with one final question, right? If I think all of these anime that I just talked about are mid, right? Then what is the real anime of the year of 2024? And the answer to that is actually pretty simple, because if you did your homework and you watched my 2023 Anime Awards video, I already told you the answer there. But yeah, Bokeyama forever. Guess who's gonna win Anime of the Year 2024? Season 2, baby. Bokeyama forever. I'm looking forward to the movie coming out in February, one time before Valentine's Day. They're probably going to announce season 3 at the end of this movie. And that's going to be anime of whatever the fuck year that comes out. 2027 probably, let's be real. Yeah, I think I'm done.